Greetings everyone, my name is Zetterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Make a Good Mega Man Level Contest 2, or Magmal 2 for short. During the last part, I completed a long developer commentary on my own level, Conveyor Mayhem, and it's been 2 months since that last part. My apologies for the long delay. There are two main reasons for that. The first one was that I wanted to focus more on my other LP series, in particular my Mega Man Maker LP series. The second was that I was a bit worried with how I ranked and scored levels, so I spent a lot more time getting ready to play through each of the levels on my first try, so I would be more fair and impartial throughout my scoring. But now that I think about it, here's what I'll do in the future. Starting from here on out, whenever I do a first playthrough of each of these levels, I'll give a fresh take of how I think the score should be, based off of my own playthrough and what the judge ratings are and judge comments are, and then once I complete this LP series, I'll go back and regrade all these levels or rescore them based off of everything else that's been there. That seems like a better idea. Also, between this and the previous part, I went to the costume shop and purchased the Creon Conquest costume for 500 bolts. This is Francesca from Creon Conquest, or Dorothy as she's referred to as here, from Magical Dorothy. It was a heavily Mega Man inspired game for the NES. I may in fact do an LP of the series, specifically Magical Dorothy, the Japanese version, well, an English translation because it's a more fully fledged title than the American version. The American version cut out some of the story for some reason, or most of the story actually. The main differences for her are, well, not with the wire adapter, but mainly for the Rush Coil and Rush Jet. The Rush Coil is a little bit differently colored, at least that's what I think it is, but the main difference was with the Rush Jet, where instead of Rush Jet we have a magical broom. Those are the only differences, of course. So let's continue onwards. Yeah, I'm curious, what's at the inside of this tower actually? I still find it neat how the looping effect is. Renhawk did a great job with this effect. And don't worry, I'll cover the level to the right soon enough, right after this one. So in 22nd place is Aurora Man by SpponyBardOL, with an average score of 34.0. Let's do this. 1 energy element and 1 noble nickel. Let's get ready, and of course this stage takes place in the city in a snowy environment. Keep an eye on that slash cloud block, that'll be important later. This would be a sneaky place to place a noble nickel, but instead they put a large bolt there. So we have the twin cannons as well as the camellons, or cannons. That's what the rollers are called. Also a nice touch with the changing colors of the ladder. And there's of course the Aurora in the background. I also like how we recolored the Crystal Joes there. They still act the same way, but I still like a different color. It's a nice touch. Almost got shot down by the wall blaster there. I also like how all the buildings are also shifting colors slightly. It really adds to the nice atmosphere. Though I wish this stage actually had an actual gimmick instead of just the aesthetics being here. Maybe like a rainbow platform like from Ringman's stage. Really, the only gimmick of this stage are the Shadow Man platforms, and the Crystal Joes. Oh gosh, the enemy placement of all these Spookapellis is a little bit annoying. Not to mention, if I didn't have the knockback reduction, I would have fallen to the bottomless pit there. Not sure if I like this segment with the positioning though. Good checkpoint placement, at least I hope it's a checkpoint. Gotta be a bit quick on your feet here. By taking the left alternate route, you can skip the more difficult segments to the right, and you also get access to a noble nickel, as shown over here, once you fight off this Udon, which is easy to do with the triple blade. Music for the stage is also pretty nice, and aesthetics are also pretty nice as well, what with the aurora, as well as the cityscape, the snowy cityscape that is. Really sells the idea of this stage taking place in the winter, or this being an Arctic location. Though I wish this stage had more than one noble nickel, after all there are a bunch of locations where you could hide it. At the very least, most of the enemy placement, or rather most of the enemy choices are pretty good, outside of that one room with the Pukapellis. Like, this room is fine, but that one room was a bit problematic because of it taking place over a bottomless pit. Here it's fine because there's no bottomless pit. And the difficulty curve of the stage is a little bit wonky. Like, that one segment was a bit more difficult than the rest. And I'll gladly take that E-Tank, after all, I'm really low on E-Tanks. Also, that doll is a pretty cute representation of an extra life for Dorothy here. I'll call her Dorothy instead of Francesca here because that's what her name is in this game. Also, I really like the neon Dr. Wise symbol. It's the little things of this stage that make it unique. Unfortunately though, this stage commits a cardinal sin here. Well, two in one. We have a boss corridor without a boss in the end. Also, this stage is called Aurora Man, but there's no Aurora Man at the end. At least put Chill Man or re-sprite Chill Man to be an Aurora Man. That would be a neat way of adding a Roadmaster boss at the end. Otherwise, it's kind of setting up expectations that don't get fit. And that would be a nice way to cap off the level. Anyways, judge comments. Outside of that one room, the stage has a pretty good difficulty curve, that's for sure. Maybe not very good, but at least decent to good-ish. At the very least, there were some interesting setups with the Shadow Man platforms, especially in tandem with the Crystal Joes. That could also be a problem when you drop into those two Shadow Man platforms and potentially get killed. And it does require quick reaction time because the scrolling isn't slowed down. If there's one thing to say about the stage, I would say it's solid, above average, but nothing more. The graphics and music are the things that really carry this one, as well as the decent design. Really, if this had a boss fight at the end, or a central gimmick other than the Shadow Man platform, something more unique, maybe those rainbow platforms from Ringman's stage, this stage would get a higher score because right now it's kind of forgettable. Basically, it's there. It's a fun level, but it's there. Guri really liked this level, but Ace kinda was disappointed here. And Ace sums it up for me. It looks great, it sounded great, but that's it, it's rather forgettable. I mean, there are a lot of things in DevKit that could have helped polish up this level, like the Ring Man platforms, or potentially using Chill Man or Crystal Man or something. And yes, there was little cohesion with the enemy types. Oh sure, it made sense to have the Kamons because they're rollers and they work in a city environment, as well as the Crystal Joes, but the other ones not so much. Maybe respite the enemies to be more crystal-y like the cannons, that would make them more cohesive. So, based on my first impressions, this is still an above average level. I'd probably give it a 33 or 32. Before moving on to the next level, let's talk with Motion Sickness Man. To the right of me is the only disqualified level in the contest. There were 81 levels submitted, and this was the only one that was disqualified, bringing the total number of ranked submissions down to 80. That was due to one of the judges, A Spark, getting severe motion sickness from playing this stage. So thankfully the devs did implement this. If you really want to, you can disable the intense, well maybe I don't really consider it intense, but the bouncing effect of the following stage and complete it that way. You need to do so if you want to complete the level for 100%. So if you have motion sickness, hit the off block and then play the stage that way. After all, it's a pretty fun level. But oh, is this so fun to do if you time it right. Especially with all the sound effects here. But for me, I will leave it on because that's a lot of the charm that this stage has. So here's the level I'm referring to. Disqualified, Bouncy Castle by Beat 28 with an average score of 34. And of course, Ace couldn't grade it because he got motion sick. Also, for some reason, the motion sickness warning label there isn't moving. It was moving back in Neon Man's stage, so I don't know what happened here. Must be a glitch. 1 energy element and 2 noble nickels. Now, if you have motion sickness from seeing a bouncing effect, look away from this stage. I'll alert you once the stage is over. Or just go down to the description below and click on the timestamp for the next stage. I will have to go through this twice though. So, here we go. So here it is, Bouncy Castle. The main gimmick of this level is the bouncy gimmick in the background, where occasionally, at set intervals, the stage will bounce up and down and push you upwards. Also, another nice touch, if you hold down A while it's bouncing up and down, you'll continue to jump. The bouncing gimmick makes the stage a bit harder to go through, but it is doable without the bouncing, and it's still charming. Honestly, I like to keep the bouncing on because I'm not really affected by the motion sickness. In fact, the motion sickness of this stage is less worse than what it was in Neon Man. But I didn't have motion sickness there either. But this is honestly the most charming level of Tier 8 by far. Oh yeah, and by the way, no rush coil, no rush jet, and no super arm. I mean super arrow. I also like that the bouncing not only affects me, but it also affects all the enemies. It also makes the stage a little bit more dangerous to go through. Also, the stage theme is from one of the stages from Kokoron, a Japanese-only NES game. And the music really fits the stage. It's a really cheerful romp. Not a romp, it's a wonderful experience. It's kind of a shame that this got disqualified. I would put it in upper tier 8, that's for sure. It's one of my favorite levels of tier 8. It is possible to make it up there without using any special weapons though, if you time your bouncing correctly. Also, fun fact, the bouncing is not stopped even if you use a flash stopper, as I'll demonstrate right over here. There are 2 moments of short bouncing or minor bouncing, followed by major bouncing. And here's the first noble nickel. Now you have 2 routes to go through this level, for now at least. That's why I'll have to play through the stage at least twice. I'll be taking the left teleporter first. And that takes me to this. This looks a lot like the Mega Man Alpha minigame from Mega Man ZX Advent, which was an unlockable. Really, the main thing I like about the stage are the graphics and how charming the gimmick is and how well utilized it is everywhere. Maybe not how well utilized it is, but how omnipresent it is and how unique it is. Here you gotta be a bit careful not to get shot up into the spikes, or bounced up into the spikes. The bouncing kinda changes up how you play through the level, especially because of the risk of getting skewered into things. Even the bolts bouncing is quite charming. That was a bit risky there. The bouncing kind of threw off my mojo. I'll use an E-tank here. I probably should have spent bolts in the shot though. Hello there. I remember you. You're Mega Man Volnut, or rather Rock Volnut in the Japanese version, from Mega Man 64, or Mega Man Legends. Nothing to the right though. I expected to see Mega Man Advent there, but oh well. I'd rather take the safe route because here's the second and final Noble Nickel. I wish there were more Noble Nickels in the level, maybe hidden in some of the earlier segments. Or maybe some of those other segments with, like the recreations of other stages. That would be a perfect place to put them. This stage could have easily had 4 Noble Nickels. Here's the second set of split pathways. I'll take the left route first. And now we have a bouncy version of Nightman's Castle, I suppose. With even more bouncy tiles. And vertical scrolling. This makes the stage even more bouncy. Oh, and by the way, if you think the stage is already quite bouncy, it was even more bouncy in the original version. The bouncing here was really toned down from the original, where the bouncing was almost constant. That's probably why Ace Spark got motion sickness. I wouldn't mind playing through a version of that stage, the one where it was bouncing almost constantly. That'd be a neat thing. I already know some crazy players decided to go through the stage using the drunken effect from the booze. That was something. Now 8-way scrolling here, with bouncing everywhere. There may be a bottomless pit over there, but I don't want to check. The control of this is so satisfying to go through. I like the controls of Magmal 2 a lot more than Mega Man Maker, that's for sure. And there was me not being careful, because with the combined bouncing of the stage and the bouncy tiles, you can get launched up into spikes. As demonstrated right over there, okay, the springs are actually strong enough to bounce you up there anyway, even without the bouncing, so you gotta be a bit careful. I'll be taking the left route because it probably has a secret. Oh. This is the harder route, but there's probably an extra goodie or something. The fan isn't helping matters. Especially when it switches direction. And we get an M-Tank for our efforts, although I don't really need it. So that's the end of Pathway 1 for this level. So we're nearing the end. There is something hidden behind the B symbol. If I can only reach it properly, so instead I'll just use the wheel cutter. Apparently not. That would be a perfect place to hide a Noble Nickel. Oh yeah, there is something there. There was an extra life placed over there, but there could have been a Noble Nickel there. Anyway, the boss of the stage, adding to the fun, is a custom version of Crash Man called Bounding Crash Man. who has a custom version of dropping crash bombs, and can also throw a shield if he decides to use it. For some reason he's deciding not to use his shield attack. I'm not sure why. Well, okay then. That was a bit different than what I expected. I was hoping he was going to use his shield attack where he threw a series of shields at you, but he decided to only use his crash bomb rain attack. Well, it's time to go through the alternate routes, those being the two right teleporters. It's not like there are just 2 or 3 screen differences, there are some major differences there. On to the right teleporter we go. This time we have a recreation of Yamato Man stage from Mega Man 6. Though we have some of the tiles from my Tin Concrete Man stage. I still don't know what those cannon enemies are from. They look like miniature bullet bills. Also, the Dachons are a little bit too wimpy. They really need to be buffed up. Really, you can use the bouncing of this stage to your advantage and use it as a sort of replacement for the rush coil. And there's the end of this segment, one more left to go. Hopefully once I play through the Bounding Crashman fight again, he'll actually show off his other attack. Now we have a Stone Man recreation. I wouldn't mind if B decided to remake an entire Mega Man game, remake the stage design a little bit with the bouncing gimmick overall, that'd be fun. Although there is some screen tearing with the background as I may have noticed, and some of the tiles, due to the way it's structured. You may not see it in the video, but I clearly see it every so often, especially when there's the major screen shake. If they allowed Super Arrow, that segment would be really easy. And by taking this route, we get a free E-Tank. And that's the end of this segment. Well, almost. We have to fight this big metal dispenser. Okay, we can't even go to the right. It's protected. That went a bit more poorly than what I expected, but it works. But overall, this stage is very charming. The most charming stage of Tier 8. Also, I like how Bede reused the background from the ending of Mega Man 2. It works pretty well here. Also, nice B symbol. Now let's see if Bounding Crashman actually uses his other attack. And the Bouncy make this fight a little bit more chaotic as well. Okay, now he's doing it, where he fires all these different shields at you, 3 of them. He's using this attack now only for some reason. Why is that? Before he decided to use his Crash Bomb Rain. Maybe it's dependent on which route you take. Maybe that's it. Because I took the left route last time, I only was able to see the Crash Bomb Rain. Never mind, he's decided to use his Crash Bomb Rain again this time. So I'm not sure why he didn't decide to do it earlier. Sakugarne time for extra fun. And it's his weakness, makes sense. Or it's rather appropriate with the bounciness of everything else. Alright, I'm done with the level. Definitely. This stage is a little bit unfocused in terms of enemies and gimmicks, but the omnipresent bouncing is wonderful to go through. Yeah, the first section of the stage is the weakest part, but once we go into the recreations / remixes of other levels, the first and second section specifically, it becomes wonderful. Once again, I echo this statement that I wish Bead remake or remade several other levels from past Mega Man games, or maybe an entire Mega Man game itself, but give it an omnipresent bouncy gimmick. That would be super fun. I would love to fight, for example, a bouncy Wily machine. It does a pretty good job with alternate pathways. And the shield attack can be a bit inconsistent to dodge. I had the weird situation where during my first encounter with Bounding Crash Man, he only used the Crash Bomb Rain for some reason, but in the second time he switched between the shield attack. The good outweighs the bad for this level. It was just super charming. I know there was a bit of unavoidable damage if you aren't careful and learn how the set patterns of the bouncing happen. Specifically, at set intervals, there will be 2 moderate bounces and then 1 large magnitude bounce afterwards. It seems unpredictable at first, but if you pay attention, it is rather consistent, but you still gotta be a bit careful and you need to pay attention to other enemies, so it makes the stage a bit more difficult to do damageless, I mean. But yeah, this can be a love it or hate it level in some ways. I loved it. I give it 2 thumbs up. And sorry, Spark. Then again, the original version was a lot more intense, with bouncing happening almost constantly. Poor Ace. If I were to score this stage with the bouncing effect, well, it's so super charming, I'll give it 37.5. I know I'm kind of scoring it higher than most of the judges, but I really enjoyed the gimmick and how cheerful the stage was. It was just super charming, and I'd placed it as one of the highest ranking stages of Tier 8 in my personal ranking. I guess this is a good time to call it quits, especially because I'm going over the 25-minute marker. So in the next part, I'll continue onwards and complete the next set of levels in Tier 8. Well then, thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Toodles!